Now, the WMAL Fisher House Radiothon continues. Please support our wounded warriors and their families by calling in your contribution now. 888-294-8560. That's 888-294-8560.
Good Friday morning to you. Thanks for joining us. It's 5:07, and you just heard it. The WMAL Fisher House Radiothon does indeed continue. Let's juice up this second day and final day of our effort to help those who benefit from the Fisher House, and that means members of our military and veterans and their spouses and their parents and their children and their loved ones and their family. When Fisher House shows up to give them the comfort and the support and a warm bed and a beautiful roof over their heads when they need it most, when that service member is in need of medical assistance, medical help, medical treatment, oftentimes due to combat injuries, oftentimes just because life happens while you're in the military. And, well, the Pentagon doesn't pay for all that stuff, but Fisher House does, and they've been doing it since 1990. And we would love for you to join us now in our 23rd year on WMAL to keep Fisher House going and keep them helping those that need our help and those who are always there volunteering for us and for all freedom-loving people around the world. Please give them a call at 888-294-8560. Happy on this Friday to be joined by the one and only Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday, Larry. It's been weeks since I've been able to wish you a happy Friday.
I know. It's Happy Fisher House Friday.
Happy Fisher House Friday. That's right.
Exactly. I did tune in to listen to the Black Friday show last Friday. By the way,
with Andrew. We had a blast.
I was closer to the Eastern time zone at that time, so it wasn't too arduous for me. My vacation was almost over that Saturday, but it was great to hear you, of course, and it's great to see you this morning. And it's Fisher House Day. How great is that?
I love this time of year, Larry.
Yes.
I love what we do with Fisher House.
Well, before I let you jump in here and talk about your adulation for this organization, let me let everybody know where we're sitting right now. We are currently proud to say that all of your generosity over the last 24 hours has added up to $132,274 for the Fisher House Foundation. And this is now a great time for us to sort of re-energize, regroup, and bring in those last donations so that we can finish today strong and maybe even launch into the weekend and get some straggler donations through the weekend, either through the phone number 888-294-8560 or also online. You can go to WMAL.com/FisherHouse, or you know what, and sometimes that's hard because you might be driving. And what was the website again? /what now? Go to WMAL.com. Once you're there, there's lots of banners all over the place that direct you right to Fisher House. So please do that. I'd appreciate it. Patrice, what are you looking forward to this morning? We've got a lot of great people we're going to be talking to.
I know. Well, first, I always love catching up with some of our regulars, people who are part of the Fisher House administration, and then hearing from the families themselves. And, I love Fisher House because it is a great example of American philanthropy. America is so exceptional in that we come together and find ways to solve problems in our communities. We don't wait for the government to do that. And Fisher House is a great example, a need, helping families while they are supporting their loved ones who are serving our nation and have been injured or hurt. You can't get better than coming around that community, that family, surrounding them with love, wrapping them with love, giving them everything that they need for those moments. And I'll tell you, this is funny. I'm actually in Santa Barbara this morning because I'm speaking at the Young America's Foundation to their entrepreneurial leadership track. And the young man who was giving me a tour of the Reagan Ranch asked me who my favorite guest was. And Larry, how can I point out my favorite guest? But I said, I love Fisher House guests. I love hearing from the families what Fisher House means to them. So, I didn't even expect that question to come up, but I'm happy to share it on air. It just brings us back full circle.
Yeah, very cool, by the way. Yes, for pulling back the curtain, letting everyone know that Patrice is on the other side of the country, waking up very early to talk with us this morning. I was wondering why your studio looked different today, but yes, very cool. We love the Young America's Foundation, of course, and very cool for you. Did you get to actually visit the Reagan Ranch, by the way?
I did. I didn't wear cowboy boots. I didn't know I was supposed to, but it's okay.
That's all right.
I walked around. It was so beautiful. It was breathtaking, actually.
It really is amazing when you walk through the Reagan Ranch. I've been fortunate enough to get a tour as well, and you realize how it just feels like Reagan was just there yesterday.
Yes.
Because they've kept it in this pristine condition.
Pristine, yes.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why we love YAF, because the Reagan Ranch is now in their hands and their responsibility. So very cool that you get to address the young people there and the young conservatives. I think all of us felt an extra duty after the assassination of Charlie Kirk to jump in and sort of pick up even a little bit where he left off in communicating to young conservatives and motivating and exciting them. So very cool. Good for you. Later this morning, we're going to have a conversation. I'm looking at our rundown here, and the guests who either work with Fisher House or who have benefited from Fisher House. And a couple of them I've had the pleasure of talking to, and I want to bring your attention. At 6:15, we're going to speak with a young woman named Kayla Saska. She's a Navy vet. She had an accident while she was deployed on a ship. And one thing led to another, and she sort of had these mystery ailments that were going on. She wasn't quite sure. Eventually, they brought her to Walter Reed, and her sister, who lives in Arizona, flew in on behalf of the family and cared for her and stayed at Fisher House while she was healing here in Bethesda. I got to tell you, Kayla is an amazing young woman to talk to, and she perfectly represents the young people who wear the uniform right now. She's got energy. She's got I've spoken to she and her sister before, and they're fantastic. And I'm also seeing that J.P. Lane is in the rundown. Our listeners have heard him. We run a 1-minute public service announcement for Fisher House based on an interview I did with J.P. Lane last month. And so you'll recognize his name. He talks about all of the injuries he sustained when he was struck, his vehicle, his tank, rolled over an IED. That was actually the first IED that actually debilitated a tank during the war. He actually blew into the tank, and his injuries. You've heard the advertisement here or the message here on WMAL where he details all of the injuries that he had and how what kind of trauma he sustained. But he is incredibly motivating. He's now taken all of those injuries and all of the psychological effects and PTSD that he had from that attack, and he's completely turned it around, and he is now a motivational speaker. He now motivates other people and convinces them not to end it all as he flirted with for a while. He's incredible, and you're going to hear from him later in the day here on WMAL too. So it's just, we should just launch right into it. Let's just get into it, Patrice, and bring on all of the Fisher House folks, and let's get that money coming in here and your generous donations. 888-294-8560. We are ready to go.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939. You're listening to the WMAL Fisher House Radiothon. Call to donate. 888-294-8560.
It's hard to nail down who is more inspiring, those who work and interact with the military and are benefiting from the Fisher House Foundation and the great Fisher Houses, or the incredible staff that work at Fisher House Foundation and have dedicated their lives to this cause. Let's bring in the Chief of Staff of Fisher House, who 20 years ago volunteered, and now, 20 years later, she's the Chief of Staff, kind of running things. Mary Considine, thank you so much for joining us, Mary, and good morning. Thanks for waking up early with us.
Good morning, Larry, Patrice. Thank you so much. It's a great day to talk about Fisher House. I appreciate it.
Mary, well, first of all, congratulations to you and the entire organization for hitting an amazing milestone, 100 Fisher Houses. The 100th house was opened earlier this year. Tell me about sort of how that need has grown now and how Fisher House realizes that going through the 30 years that you've been through. Fisher House started before the 9/11 attacks, before the War on Terror, and you have seen the need for these Fisher Houses grow exponentially, really, and I'm guessing well into the future.
Absolutely. The Fisher House program began at peacetime. There was still a need for families to have support while visiting a loved one at a medical center or at a VA hospital. I think that's a need that has always existed and always will. But after 9/11, the Fisher Houses proved essential. We had actually just built a Fisher House over at Landstuhl Army Medical Center in Germany, which became the first stop for many of those who were evacuated out of Iraq and Afghanistan, not just from the U.S., but from other countries. And that's where their families met them in those first moments. Oftentimes they came back to the United States only to stay at another Fisher House somewhere in the country on their journey to recovery.
Wow. I mean, Mary, that's amazing. When you think about this year, it's been tumultuous, especially during the government shutdown, and obviously military families were directly impacted. How are you guys impacted by that? Did you see kind of an immediate spike in need?
There's always a great deal of need when there's uncertainty. With the Fisher House having been around for over 30 years, over 35 years now, supporting military families, I mean, we have seen so many changes. We've had government shutdowns. We've had changes in administration, hospitals closed and hospitals opened. And the amazing thing is this model of a Fisher House, which simply says, we know that we need to cover your most basic need. You need a place to rest and recharge every single day to be able to face the next day, supporting your loved one's care. So the incredible thing is that throughout every single one of those moments, a Fisher House is there for families. And we not only have an incredible staff at the Fisher Houses, at every single hospital, taking care of families, there's this knowledge that whatever the need is out there, the American public has said yes. We are going to honor the service and sacrifice of these families. And, we're not going to stop at 100 Fisher Houses. No. We've already built 101. We're on the way with 102. Where there is a need for a Fisher House, we know that your listeners are behind us. We're going to make sure that that resource is available for families when they need it most.
Oh, we won't let you stop at 100. Don't worry about that, Mary. I've had the pleasure of seeing you at events over the years. You and your colleagues Michelle Horn and Dave Coker, and it's also you guys are all sort of the same because I'll start talking to you, and immediately you'll say, "Oh, you know what? Just in the last month, I met this family." Because you're all interacting with the families, and something's like just recently touched you, or you've had an experience firsthand. Look back on the year of 2025. What stands out to you amongst the families that you've been able to help through Fisher House?
Well, I have to say my favorite part of the job is always that moment when I'm in a Fisher House, and I will say often in the kitchen of a Fisher House, which is the heart of the house, and this experience that you have of meeting someone who is there for the first time. The very first time I ever visited a Fisher House, I was standing in the kitchen dropping off donations, and I saw the interaction of a young military spouse walking in, clearly uncertain, not knowing what was next, and another mom in the house clocking her and saying immediately, "Hey, good morning. Are you new here?" And immediately launching into helping her navigate what was next. How do I get from the Fisher House across the street to the hospital? And that's an experience that even after 20 plus years that I've had at Fisher House, in every single new Fisher House, I see that. There's this community that builds inside the Fisher House. It's not just a bunch of people staying in different rooms, going around their own way. There is always someone who is going through a different experience, but it's the same in that they're worried about their loved one. They want them to get well, get the best care, and they're going to look out for each other. Lifetime friendships have formed inside Fisher Houses, even many years after people stop returning there for the care of their loved one, sometimes even after they've lost that loved one. Those friendships exist, and I think that makes a difficult experience just a little more bearable. And that's something that we all get to be a part of.
We're speaking with Mary Considine, Chief of Staff for the Fisher House Foundation. I would love for you to talk about the ways that our listeners can give. I mean, obviously, cash is welcome, money is welcome, but you have some really unique programs where people can donate mileage, abilities to stay over in hotels. Would love for you to talk through some of those.
Absolutely. We're always, like you said, going to keep our main mission of building new Fisher houses where they're needed. So your donations are welcome, but not everybody has that ability. And so with our different programs, whether you can donate air miles with different airlines, we have partnerships. We have provided over 80,000 airline tickets in 20 years to bring families to the bedside, or now more recently to give those families the opportunities for continued recovery, retreats, physical rehabilitation activities, keeping that interest and support and community that these wounded and injured and ill folks need to make the next day seem possible. The same thing is true with donated hotel points. We don't think that anybody should ever be penalized and not have a place to stay because the Fisher House is full. And so every single place that there's a Fisher House, we have our Hotels for Heroes program ready to go into action. In case there's not a room for a family, we can make sure that we're still supporting them until they have that opportunity to get into a Fisher House and experience that community.
Yeah, it's amazing that it almost seems like Fisher House, whenever there's a need that someone in the military or their family or their loved ones need, you don't have it's not part of your vocabulary to say, yeah, we can't do that. Even if it's not part of the things that you've already done before, you somehow figure it out. And that's why we love y'all. We love you for being there for those who have been there for us. And we appreciate everything you do. Mary, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We could not do this without the incredible support of your listeners, people all across the country who have said, yes, this is our way to give back and support those who served. We honor them.
All right. Well, you just heard Mary. That's your cue, everybody. 888-294-8560. They can't do it without you. They can't do it without your generosity. So please, whatever you can give as we kick things off here on day 2 of the 2025 WMAL Fisher House Radiothon, please make that call and get us started strong. 888-294-8560 or just go to WMAL.com.
All right, coming up, we have so many great guests from Fisher House. We've started with one talking about the operations, and we've got more to come. Plus, news of the day, the Venezuelan boat strikes. We've got that update and more. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington. Supporting our wounded warriors and their families. The Fisher House Radiothon continues on WMAL, a Cumulus station. News now. Now, the WMAL Fisher House Radiothon continues. Please support our wounded warriors and their families by calling in your contribution now. 888-294-8560. That's 888-294-8560.
It's 5:37. Thanks so much for being part of our program every morning. Thanks for letting us be a part of your morning routine every morning, but especially this morning, because it is the 2025 WMAL Fisher House Radiothon, our annual effort to participate in giving back to a group, Fisher House, that does so much for our military, for their families, when they need it most. And if you can help us raise money for them, we would really appreciate it this Christmas season. 888-294-8560 or online at WMAL.com. It's Larry and Patrice. And Patrice, believe it or not, there's a lot of news going on out there, too. We should probably talk about that, too. Huh?
Well, if we have to. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Yesterday, the week ended on Capitol Hill. Sort of the way it began with the story of the September Venezuelan boat strike, the American strike, the American military with the strike against Venezuelan narco-terrorists. And but it did end. It ended with that story yesterday, but not the same way it began. You'll remember the Washington Post had the screaming headline that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth delivered a "kill them all" order to the military, and words like war crimes and double tap and various other incendiary descriptions of that attack soon became part of our national conversation. And you had people, respected in this town, or at least at one point respected, people like Leon Panetta and Senator Mark Kelly, all flirting with the idea that Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, were, due for a Nuremberg-type trial for a war crime, for murdering innocent people who had been taken off the battlefield. Well, by the time the week ended yesterday with the behind-closed-door testimony of the admiral in charge of special operations, the story changed quite a bit. Here's Senator Cotton yesterday as he emerged from that testimony.
Yeah, I want to thank Admiral Bradley and General Kane for coming to brief about the strikes on September 2nd, which were righteous strikes. These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans. The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful, and they were exactly what we would expect our military commanders to do.
Well, and you talk about respected, Patrice. Senator Cotton is a straight shooter. He is, by the way, an Army veteran, he gave up his law practice to go fight in the war on terror. Eventually, part of his duty involved working with the Old Guard, that is the unit based here in Arlington. They're responsible for the final services for the fallen who gets buried at Arlington. So this is a man you don't quarrel with in terms of his integrity and his honor. And by the way, he has a record of criticizing the Trump administration on issues of national security when he believes that they deserve some gentle criticism. When Tom Cotton says this is perfectly fine, there is nothing wrong, and again, a lawyer, he knows what he's talking about.
Well, yes. I mean, obviously, this is just this whole hoopla. People are calling it a hoax. It's really just meant to intend to find a way to find an Achilles heel for the Trump administration, and particularly these military strikes. I mean, listen, I don't know who is defending, the terrorist, the drug cartels bringing drugs into our borders through these boats. I mean, I don't. Well. I'm trying to understand their reasoning and their rationale. Saying, "Oh, let's protect these cartel members coming in," but it's that Trump derangement syndrome that has gotten to people's heads, so that let's just leave the boats alone. The Trump administration is wrong to go after drugs and drug cartels, and so we're going to fight against anything that they do. And I think it's irrational. I don't know. Maybe it riles up some folks on the leftist base, but even they don't think this is a big story.
Well, I mean, they certainly did right up until yesterday when the truth finally came out. It was the Washington Post that started all of this. It actually, ironically, took the New York Times to sort of throw quite a bit of cold water on it, but they were calling for Pete Hegseth's head. And you're right, they're looking for an Achilles heel. They're looking for anything to attack the Trump administration. But in so doing, they're undermining the Pentagon. They're undermining our military. And let's not forget, it was the men and women that we're talking about today with the Fisher House Foundation. It was the men and women who wear our uniform, who carry out lawful orders like these orders, who are the ones who take on these operations. So when a senator goes in front of a camera and says that, Hegseth's guilty of a war crime, he's also saying that lieutenant, that major, that ensign, that enlisted men, they're also guilty of war crimes. They are besmirching the members of our military, and it was all a lie. And here's a little bit more. Here's the reporter specifically asking Senator Cotton what he saw in the video of these attacks, and specifically having to do with these two alleged survivors, that they painted this picture that these are, it's like Rose and Jack hanging on to the debris of the Titanic,
piece of the
with waving a white flag and begging for mercy. Well, here's what Tom Cotton saw. Cut 2.
What exactly did you see in terms of the video of the second strike? Were there survivors?
I saw two survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs down for the United States, back over, so they could stay in the fight. and potentially, given all the context we heard, of other narco-terrorist boats in the area coming to their aid to recover their cargo and recover those narco-terrorists. And just like you would blow up a boat off of the Somali coast or the Yemeni coast, and you'd come back and strike it again if it still had terrorists and it still had explosives or missiles, Admiral Bradley and Secretary Hegseth did exactly what we would expect them to do.
Did a JAG tell him? Said it's one of the most disturbing things he's seen in his career. Did that match
Who
up
did?
with what you, Congressman Hines?
No, I didn't see anything disturbing about it. What's disturbing to me is that millions of Americans have died from drugs being run to America by these cartels. What's gratifying to me is that the president has made the decision, finally, after decades of letting it happen, that we're going to take the battle to them.
Yeah, and again, all of this is contrary to the Washington Post reporting and the way this thing was framed, also by Natasha Bertrand at CNN. And again, with Senator Cotton, he was asked, did a military lawyer, a JAG officer, see this, and what was their ruling?
And we're going to continue to strike these boats until cartels learn their lesson that their drugs are no longer coming to America.
Did a military JAG say that the second and follow-on strikes were all lawful?
Yes, look, this is not like a firefight in some cave in Afghanistan that had 3 people. This was witnessed by literally hundreds of uniformed and civilian personnel at the Pentagon, at Fort Bragg, at other installations. Dozens of them were lawyers. Everybody was watching. Everybody had seen the intelligence and the legal basis leading up to these strikes. Everyone was present during it, and that continues to be the case. There's been no change in the guidance or the order that the Secretary has given to our troopers. And in subsequent strikes, there is an example where survivors actually were shipwrecked and distressed and not trying to continue on their mission. And they were treated, as they should be, as non-combatants. They were picked up by U.S. forces. Just an example of how, of course, our military always obeys the laws of war. Our military also acts within appropriate lawful authority to target these narco-terrorists.
And that right there, Patrice, is the most damning part of this. There were other attacks and other incidents that the U.S. military carried out at the same time where they did make the ruling, okay, don't go after them because they're off the field of battle now. You know, you can't, but these people, this is one of the most maddening, but it's typical. It's typical. This is how it's been for 10 years. The crazy, outrageous allegations against Trump or against his administration, and everybody's hair is on fire, and they're screaming impeachment and war crimes and, you know, send them to Gitmo. And then by the time the truth finally gets out there, half of this country thinks that the original story is true, and it's like they want us at each other's throats here. And this was a media creation that the Democrats went along with, and it's absolutely outrageous.
Well, and let's not forget that this follows on the heels of the video with Mark Kelly and Elisa Slotkin, some senators literally saying military service members should defy the orders of the president. So this would have been a nice way to say, oh, see, this is the kind of order we want you to defy. So, yeah, you're 100% right, Larry, and I'm glad that this was exposed, and I hope that CNN and NPR and, frankly, the Washington Post goes back and actually tells their listeners and their readers the truth.
Well, they should do more than that. They should expose their reporters who ran with this story without asking more questions, without getting more information. Again, the headline of the Washington Post said that Hegseth delivered a kill them all order. And this besmirches our military. I want to keep making that clear. People around the world who don't follow it the way we do, they'll see the original story and they'll think that the United States military is guilty of Nazi-like war crimes. It's disgusting. And I just mentioned Natasha Bertrand. She's also the person who had the report that the Hunter Biden laptop was all, Russian disinformation.
Oh, goodness.
She has a track record of the Russian collusion story, all of these things that go out there. And do the reporters ever pay the price? Do the publications and the news outlets ever pay a price? Nope, never.
You're listening to the WMAL Fisher House Radiothon. Call to donate 888-294-8560.
By the way, let me just button up that last story. Washington Post reporters Alex Horton and Ellen Nakashima. Those were the two reporters that wrote the original headline.
Okay.
That still exists at the Washington Post. Hegseth order on first Caribbean boat strike. Officials say, kill them all. What do we need to do to have this story retracted and to find out what Alex Horton and Ella Nakashima are going to do to repair what should be a damaged reputation. All right, we'll leave that alone now as we turn our sights back to this morning's primary function, which is to help Fisher
Yes.
House Foundation with our Radiothon. Nancy Popejoy is the Vice President of External Relations with Fisher House, and she woke up early to join us. Good morning, Nancy. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
So you have an interesting story here because you used to work in the government. You worked in the government for many years, and now you work for Fisher House Foundation, still bringing assistance to our military. So I wonder, from your position, now that you're in the private sector, talk to me about what Fisher House is able to do and the way they're able to do it that is different than if the government tried to solve the problems that Fisher House solves.
Well, sir, the biggest thing would be that the Fisher House Foundation is able to gain support, whether it's through volunteer or financial, from our private sector, that then can enable our military, where the government, you cannot go out and do that and ask for sponsorship. So you are playing a vital role along with everyone else that is listening to provide what we do for our military.
You know, Nancy, that's so important. You talked about the volunteer aspect of it, and as well as the donations that help families. I'd love for you to talk about some of the families that you have met. Maybe one particular story that really just took your breath away about how Fisher House was able to help a unique family.
Well, ma'am, with what really led me to know about the Fisher House was in 1994 when I was working at Madigan Army Medical Center. And that's at Fort Lewis, Washington State. And we had a resident that was lost on Mount Rainier during a snowstorm and actually died. And the family was flown in, and it made such a difference in my life of what one can do to help the family when they go through tragedy. And that's how I really became familiar with the Fisher House.
Well, I so appreciate what you and your entire team of Fisher House does, of course. That's part of the reason why we're so happy to be able to spend some time asking our listeners to participate in donating and helping you continue to do what you do. And I really appreciate you joining us this morning on our Radiothon. Thank you so much, and keep up the great work.
Well, thank you, sir.
Of course. It's our pleasure. Give us a call, please. Call us and keep those donations coming in for Fisher House as we continue our Radiothon today. The number, again, to remind you, is 888-294-8560. It's 554.
This holiday season, when you get them STIHL, batteries are included. Buy select battery tool sets and get a free extra battery. Visit STIHL.